can you see my slides?
I
Okay.
can,
Okay,
yes.
perfect. Awesome. So thank you for everyone for joining today's webinar. We'll just be doing a Q&A with Dr. Kaiser, the Dean of the Chiropractic program. So we're really just gonna chat with Dr. Kaiser, get her thoughts on, chiropractic, milestones of the program, any highlights or key features, the student experience at UWS, and then we'll open it up to questions from the audience. So you are able to drop your questions in the chat. So if you have a question that you want us to address once we get to that open forum, be sure to do so. I believe everyone will be able to see your question. So if you drop it in the chat, everyone will be able to see that. So just keep that in mind. This session will be recorded today. We have, good amount of students who are able to join, but we want to be able to have this be a resource for other folks who weren't able to join this live session today. So just keep that in mind as well too, that the session will be recorded. And then for any information, if you're wanting information on admissions requirements, eligibility, wanting to know if you're eligible, want to chat through funding options, we have several other videos or resources on the website that you could view. But you can also reach out to admissions and chat with your counselor to go over those details. But today we're going to focus more on some different talking points for Dr. Kaiser and I to cover. So again, if you have any questions, just drop it in the chat and we'll get to those at the end during that open forum. So just to start off, many of you may know me, but I'm Liddy Barbrick. I'm the Senior Admissions Counselor at UWS. So helping students move through the admissions process and just being a resource for questions as you navigate this next chapter, especially for our international students as well. So Dr. Kaiser, do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I am Dr. Kaiser. I am the Dean of the Chiropractic program here at University of Western States, and I want to welcome you to this webinar. Thanks for participating. If I can do something a little different, Lydia, if you don't
Mhm.
mind, so that I'm for sure will answer all your questions while you've got them. I wonder if there's any questions right now that you're hoping I'll address in this webinar. So if you want to put those into the chat, that would be great. And I'll make sure that I address those things as I'm talking. And then also do not hesitate if you are one that likes to speak up, don't hesitate to you can use the raising hand function. You can put something in the chat. You can just blurt out questions because this is all about you today. I want to make sure that I answer your questions. So let's get them
Yeah.
asked.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you for joining us today and just your continued support with prospective
Absolutely.
students as well. If you guys haven't connected with Dr. Kaiser yourself, she always makes herself a resource and has been a great support for our students. So a great resource for all your questions today and after this event too.
Yep. I'm always happy if you want to email me questions. We can set up a separate Zoom, whatever works for you all.
Hmm. Perfect. So to start off, we just wanted to chat with you about why to pursue chiropractic. So I wanted to cover why someone would pursue chiropractic. This comes up a lot, especially as I work with students. So I know there are many reasons to pursue this field, and why it's just continuing to grow as a field, which some of those reasons are listed here. But Dr. Kaiser, I was curious to know like what led you to chiropractic, and how did you know it was the right fit for you?
Good question. So I was born into chiropractic, if you will. My father was a chiropractor. His office was in the basement of the house that we lived in. So I was always down there in his office. So it seemed like a really good fit. Um, if you know the chiropractic profession at all, you may recognize the name BJ Palmer. BJ Palmer was actually the founder of, nope, the educator of chiropractic, and he was a mentor to my father. So my father went to Palmer College of Chiropractic back in 1929, if you can believe it. I know I don't look that old. And graduated there in 1931. So it just fit. I was this part of who I was to consider chiropractic. However, I went into undergrad with the intent of taking a lot of sciences, becoming a chiropractor. And the sciences were so difficult. I thought, oh my gosh, I am not going to be able to do this. So in my undergraduate, I decided to pivot because I just was getting so discouraged by some of the rigor of the science program. And so I pivoted. And to make a long story short, I became an educator for and taught school for 15 years in different capacities. And then I still had that urge, that desire to get it return to something where I was helping and impacting someone's health, right? A patient's health. So then I decided that I would pursue chiropractic at the age of 30 and went ahead and graduated in 2008 and went on to a residency program. So I couldn't get enough of it. Some of you might think, oh, 3 years sounds like a lot. In my case, it was a little over 3 years. I went to Logan University in the St. Louis area, and I had a mentor there that said, "Hey, what do you think about the radiology residency program?" And we can talk more about that if you're interested in something beyond chiropractic, beyond the chiropractic program. Um, and like many of you, I was like, gosh, I just want to get out and start a practice. And so I wasn't initially thinking about that residency program, but I looked into it, and 4 years after, spent 4 more years after the chiropractic program and went into the radiology residency program. And that really helped form me as not only as an educator, which I consider myself now, but also as a chiropractor, which I also um, consider myself now. So that's a
Hmm.
little bit about me and why I got interested in chiropractic. It was just kind of
Yeah.
in my blood, if you will.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what led then to your role as dean now at UWS?
Yeah, so
And yeah, how do you kind of approach that position?
Yeah, so after the residency program, it opened up doors for me to stay in administration and stay in education. And I really am passionate about the chiropractic profession in general, but I'm also very passionate about making sure the people that are entering the profession are getting the best education they possibly can. And as a dean, I can impact that. I can help develop a curriculum that I'm very proud of and put the right people in the right places to teach these courses. So that's what
Hmm.
led me initially just in an assistant dean position all the way to my current position as the dean of the program.
Awesome. And then I know we on this slide have some different reasons to pursue chiropractic, but for you, what has been the most rewarding part of being a chiropractor?
Yeah, and I think it just the thought the opportunity to change someone's um, life in
Hmm.
regards, not patient care necessarily, but a student's life. A student may come in, they're questioning, is this the right program for me? Are there other programs out there that I'm a better fit for? And if I can have that, if I can impact someone and help them make a decision that leads them to what they want to do in 3 or 4 years, that's what's most important to me.
Great, great. And then I know on this slide we touch on a little bit about the chiropractic career outlooks and just the field. Can you speak a little bit to that, to just the career outlooks for chiropractic or where you see like the profession heading in the next five,
Yeah.
10 years?
So 20 years ago, 15 years ago, people came through chiropractic school and they knew they were just going to go and operate their own clinic. They were going to go into a private practice somewhere. And it could have been that they were going to go into an associateship with a chiropractor that's already established. But traditionally, they knew they were going to go in a standalone clinic somewhere as a chiropractor. Now the opportunities are just open to us to do so many other things. You have opportunities to go into community health centers and impact folks that are economically disadvantaged, or impact you can impact certain populations of patients. You can really decide to focus only in pediatrics, or you can decide now to focus only in sports medicine, or focus on geriatric population. You can really um, write your own story almost. Like I said before, it was, yeah, you're just going to go into a clinic. Now there's those opportunities in community health centers. There's opportunities in the hospital systems. I have close colleagues that are working in hospital systems in Cleveland. I've got a mentor who's working in hospital system as a researcher at Harvard. So there's so many other opportunities. You can stay in academia. Our faculty 70% of them are chiropractors. So they chose not only to go into practice, but then they decided that they wanted to come into education. So they've chosen that. So there's really so many opportunities out there. The Veterans Administration, if you're interested in working with veterans, there's the VA hospitals where we have a lot of chiropractors working. We have chiropractors that just are solely doing research. They got interested, they got bit by the bug of maybe a case report they got interested in, and it's just snowballed into doing some pretty extensive research in chiropractic. So lots of opportunities now.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's how
Great.
I think I've seen it change over the years.
Great. Yeah, that's perfect. Then we can move on to our program specifically. So just a brief overview of the program, the key milestones students will experience. So some quick details as people on this webinar might already know. Just chiropractic is 3 years long, so 12 quarters total. It's on campus in Portland, Oregon. It's evidence-based program, which with a whole person approach to health and wellness. And like I discussed, we can definitely chat through more specifics if you have questions. So feel free to watch a previous webinar or reach out to admissions for those questions. But the mission of the DC program is to prepare students as competent chiropractic physicians who apply evidence-informed, patient-centered strategies with professionalism and integrity. So for the milestones of the program, Dr. Kaiser, can you walk us through what students can expect from the DC program and maybe how that's different from other chiropractic programs?
Sure. So we are a 3-year program, as Liddy mentioned, and we immediately are going to immerse you in some clinical opportunities. So, if let me speak to you a little bit about what that might mean. In quarter 1, you're going to get the opportunity to start honing those clinical skills. We're going to put you into an assessment center area. So, we have a state-of-the-art assessment center, which has 16 different rooms where we have standardized patients that are simulating certain cases for our students to learn from. So as a quarter 1 student, you'll be able to go into the assessment center, enter one of those rooms, encounter a standardized patient. A standardized patient is an actor or actress that is portraying a specific case. We all the standardized patients for an activity on any certain day are all doing the same thing. So the student knocks on the door as a quarter 1 student, is going to take a very simple history, going to start learning some of those communication skills that are going to be important as they progress through the program. So taking a simple history, you may take a blood pressure, you may do a posture check. We're going to do all of those things right away in quarter 1, get you excited about patient care, get you excited about using some of those assessment tools that you'll be using extensively throughout the remainder of the program. So those standardized patients are going to act for you, and you're going to start honing, going to start the foundation of your clinical reasoning skills. Oh, they've told me this kind of information. This is what that might mean. So you are thinking about those things. And then at the end of the activity, the entire group comes together and the instructor is going to walk everyone through. So that's why it's important for the patients to be standardized so that everybody's getting the same information. And then there can be a an activity at the end of the session so that you can start all thinking together clinically. So those are the kind of things we're going to immerse you in immediately. That's kind of novel to our program. Those standardized patients, the level that we use standardized patients throughout the programs, not only in the first quarters, but in a number of clinical education courses, is above and beyond what you're going to see at other universities. We take a lot of pride in this program. And the reason being is we want you to hone your skills in a very safe environment so that when you do start working with your patients, you've already made all the mistakes you can. That's not to say you're not going to need the help of your clinical educator. They're going to be there to support you, but you're going to be so well advanced and ready for patient care because of these standardized patient activities. That's kind of year 1. You're obviously going to get some adjusting courses. We're going to immerse you immediately in some activities that prepare you for the adjusting courses that you'll start in quarters 3. You're going to start thoracic adjusting, move on to lumbopelvic adjusting, move on to cervical adjusting. So we're going to start that in year 1 as well. There's also radiology courses. There's a lot of evidence-informed practice courses throughout the first year. Also heavy in the first year are our basic science courses, similar to medical school, similar to what um, students are getting in osteopathic schools. That's really, we need to give you the foundation of those basic skills. So we're going to hit you pretty heavy with human anatomy, pathology, microbiology, chemistry courses. That's why, if you remember me saying that I was overwhelmed by my science courses in my undergrad program, that's why we want you to take those science courses in undergrad and be well prepared then to come into our program so that you're successful. So year one's all about getting you ready for clinic and also the basic sciences and all the things that go along with that. Year two is going to be a really immersing you more heavily into those clinical courses. You're going to really start um, performing more advanced clinical reasoning skills. You're going to start thinking more like a doctor in year two. We're still going to give you some of those basic science courses. We're still going to give you those radiology courses, but we're really going to expect you to start thinking like a doctor in year two, so that in year three, when you get to clinic, you're really ready then for that patient care. We're going to support you all along the way in year three. And when you're in clinic, we're going to make sure that we are there for you when you have questions regarding your patient, and what treatments and managements you're going to use. But we also are going to give you some autonomy to start making some decisions on your own. So that's year three. Are we talking a little bit, Lydia, about the community-based clinical education program in an upcoming slide? I honestly can't remember. Okay,
Yes.
so
On
I'll
the,
hold
yeah,
off on that.
highlights.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds great. So yeah, that was a great overview of the different kind of the years and what you'll cover. I'm curious, how have you seen our approach, which you mentioned was different from some other programs of those early experiences? How have you seen that approach benefiting our students, whether it's in the classroom and during clinic, or even when they transition to work in the field?
Yeah, really good question. Here's what I'm hearing from our alumni, and I'm hearing from doctors who are working with our students out in whether it's after graduation or it's during quarters 10, 11, 12. The students' confidence is really incredible, well above what they've seen in other chiropractic programs. So we're really instilling some confidence in our students. And I think some of that just comes with that autonomy. We're allowing the students to really start developing as doctors and almost deciding some of the paths they want to take. We're going to support students in that. Also, the skills that they have, the adjusting skills. I'm hearing great things from the community docs, from our faculty in general, that our students are very prepared for the management part of patient care, taking care of the patient, being able to adjust the patient, being able to know when to adjust and when not to adjust, being able to use some other techniques, whether it's soft tissue, whether it's some functional assessments, and really defining a rehab program for the patient. But where our students are very skilled when it comes to patient management and just that confidence in general. We see that when it comes to our national board exams, our students are very prepared for the national board exams. Many of you may know that you need to take 4 parts in order to be licensed in the United States. So our students are really well prepared for those 4 parts of the exam. So I think that speaks to
Mhm.
how we are preparing our students well in this program.
Great, yeah. And then, like you mentioned for year three, or like it said on this slide, for the business preparation,
Mm,
how
thank
do
you.
you, can you like touch on how you support students in developing not just their clinical skills, but also the business or practice management
Yeah, I
knowledge?
appreciate you bringing that up. We do have some business courses, and we also support students in the clinic with some of the billing and documentation. So we're going to teach students in the initial course, what kind of path do you want to go on? Are you interested in an associateship? Are you interested in being your own boss? Are you interested in being an independent contractor? So you'll start looking at what some opportunities are there in that business class, and then you'll develop a business plan in order um, ach- to achieve whatever your goals may be. So we're going to provide you with that. We're going to teach you how to market yourselves, whether it's using social media appropriately or how do you um, get patients into your practice, right? If you are in a solo practice. So we're going to give you some marketing classes as well. And in the clinic, you'll have billing and documentation. So when you're working on these patients, you're also doing the documentation that you need to. So I think we do a nice job of supporting our students later on in the curriculum to be able to get out and start their own business or work in someone else's business
Mhm.
or hospital or whatever it might be.
Great, perfect. And then last question before we move on to some highlights and key features. Is there any, this is just always my favorite question, is there anything in our program that we offer that you wish you would have had during your education that you can be like, oh, that would have been nice to have?
Yeah, that's a great question. A couple things. The standardized patient program, I did not
Hmm.
get to participate in. I was designed the standardized patient program at my previous institution, but I myself did not get to participate in it. And that was that's a phenomenal way for students to really start to practice their skills and learn so much. So not only is there an instructor there saying, oh, you didn't you should have done this differently. Let's look at this in a different way. But the standardized patients are able to give you such good feedback. They're going to speak about their experience as a patient, and that is just so um, valuable to a new student to hear someone as a patient say, when you walked into the room and you sat down, you didn't give me eye contact. You were paying more attention to the computer, and you were also, it was obvious you were nervous. You were clicking your pen throughout your questioning for me. That kind of information is so valuable as a student because you can, again, practice all those things, get feedback on those things, and then when you get to clinic, you've already worked out all the bugs. So that was one thing. The
Hmm.
standardized patient program, I wish I would have been able to encounter when I was in school. And then we also have diagnostic ultrasound. It's something I don't think we talk about a lot because it's just part of our program, but we are. The if you're familiar with, you may be familiar with ultrasound in general, but this is a tool, diagnostic ultrasound, that we're starting to implement into our program where students they learn the anatomy with cadavers, which is wonderful, but they also now can see beneath the skin in using diagnostic ultrasound and being able to assess how someone's joint is moving, being able to assess whether there is some injury there that a chiropractor can assist with. So I think diagnostic ultrasound would have been something I would have really enjoyed in my program.
Great, perfect. Now we can move on to some highlights and um, key features of the program. So we've listed some of those here, like the opportunity to complete your undergraduate bachelor's degree during the DC program, or the option to add a dual master's degree like sports medicine, or just the excellent preparation for board exams and career outlook, like Dr. Kaiser was already mentioning. So there are so many more highlights we could cover, but Dr. Kaiser, I'd love to know if you can speak to some of these key features and why you think it's important for students as they begin their chiropractic career.
Yeah, what might be attractive to some students, we'll talk about that first bullet point, that undergraduate completion. You can come to University of Western States without having completed your undergraduate degree. We do want you to have completed 90 credit hours before you would start our program, but it really allows you to participate in 3 years of undergraduate education, and then you're going to complete our program in 3 years. You're going to get that undergraduate degree when you go begin our program. Around Q5, you have already taken enough courses to give you a bachelor's degree then. So you can come in after 3 years of undergrad with your science courses that we're going to recommend and with a certain GPA, a 3.0 GPA, and then you can be done with not only your undergraduate but your graduate program in 6 years, which is attractive to students. That's attractive because it's a money saver. It's attractive to some folks that come from far away because they may want to, in their quarters 10, 11, 12, they may return back home and they will continue the program with us, but they're working now with with an affiliated faculty member that's a chiropractor. They'll be working in their clinic and still having assessments. We still check in on you, but it's an opportunity to save money in that way as well. So it's a little, there's some cost savers to
Mhm.
finishing your undergraduate program with us. Um,
Mhm.
the master's option, Liddy mentioned that you can get a sports medicine master's and graduate with a DC degree and a sports medicine master's if you choose that route. You will need to take a few extra courses, but we have a number of students that choose to do that. There's lots of great opportunities for to work with some sports teams in that program, whether it's some collegiate sports teams, some high school sports teams, or some semi-pro sports teams. So that's always something that's enticing to students as well. And I've
Mhm.
talked about board exam. We do have good preparation here, standardized patient program. The white coat ceremony, that's the picture you're seeing there, is an exciting time for students because we have a pretty extensive white coat ceremony in quarter at the beginning of quarter 8 because you're getting ready for clinic. That's the quarter you're going into clinic. So then your family comes, your friends come, and you just celebrate. They're there to celebrate you and that milestone of entering clinic. So that's our white coat ceremony. The
Mhm.
excuse me for a moment. Um, my light went off and I don't want to look like I'm in the dark here.
Perfect.
Our community-based clinical education program, that's the program I mentioned that you can leave campus quarters 10, 11, 12. It is dependent on you achieving certain milestones, right? You have to demonstrate for us that we can trust that you're competent when you leave our campus and go and work with our affiliated faculty. There also are some provincial or some state regulations that kind of allow you a certain number of quarters away from our program. But on average, students participate in this community-based clinical education program in quarters 10, 11, 12. And we have a gentleman who's in charge of that program that has found sites all over the United States and in British Columbia and Alberta and a little bit in Saskatchewan, I believe, as well. These are opportunities for the students to return to those two areas and work with a chiropractor. And they're really there to continue to hone those skills of being a practitioner. Oftentimes, students will work in these clinics for 1, 2, or 3 quarters, and then the DC is so impressed with them, it's they get a job immediately after graduation once they've got all their licensure um, taking care of the licensure
Mhm.
requirements and clinic rotations. Clinic rotations start in quarter 8 and they go on through quarter 8 and 9 here on campus. Typically, that's where students spend their times in quarter 8 and 9 working in our clinic under the supervision of a clinical educator. So those are our
Mhm.
clinical rotations. There are classes that go on at the same time, but in our curriculum, we really have made sure those classes are have to do with clinic. So we're not going to throw a course that doesn't have any relevance to what you're doing. So let's a very
Mhm.
integrated curriculum, if you will.
Perfect. Great. And we can move on to the student experience. So listed, there's, many resources that students will have access to while at University of Western States. Some of my favorite that I always like to highlight are access to free tutoring for all students through Student Success. We have a meditation room on campus, which always is a nice little highlight. And then just the incredible faculty that are such good resources to our students. And Dr. Kaiser is definitely a reflection of that, always, allowing herself to be open and available for questions, but definitely has been reflected in all the faculty. So Dr. Kaiser, can you speak to a little bit about the just student experience at UWS and what the community is like here?
Yeah, it is a close community because we are a small community. The picture there of the students that are involved with the hockey club reminds me of the softball clubs that are going on right now. We have 3 different teams that have joined the city league, and the faculty come out and watch the students. And one of our security guards goes out and watches the students. So it's really a fun time for students to really shine in areas other than academics. So a nice community there. We have a nice community on campus. whether students are congregating in one of our areas for socializing, it's in the student commons, around the ping pong table, around the foosball table, in the library where it's a very student friendly area for students to congregate. All those just speak to the community that students feel here, not only community with each other, but also with the faculty. Faculty are always open to have students gather and ask questions or just socialize. It's not unusual for me to walk down the hallways and look in the faculty area and see 3 or 4 students around student or around faculty, just talking about whatever it might be, whether it's getting some professional advice or just chatting about what's going on the weekend. We have a faculty member that leads a birding um, club, so he takes students out bird watching on the weekends. We've got running clubs and faculty are involved in that. So we have a really nice community here at University of
Mhm.
Western States.
Great. And then do you have a favorite like event or activity that you want to highlight? I know you touched on like the white coat ceremony and some different clubs. Personally, I loved we just had like that field day that the ASB
Mm-hmm.
threw with the lawn games, snow cone food truck, so fun little things like that. But did you have anything else you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, and they planned that when I was out of town, so I didn't get to see the field day, but it sounded like it was a
It
roaring
was good, yeah.
success. We do have a Cairo week and a winter warm up. Cairo week happens in the fall, and so that's a week devoted to really students thinking about what they're going to do when they're thinking about the end game, if you will. I'm not going to um, sugarcoat it and say we have an easy program. We have a rigorous program, and we're proud of that rigor because it really prepares students. But students need that opportunity too to think about the end game, and that end game being of going into chiropractic into the profession, right? So we bring in folks to talk about their successes or their challenges when they were just starting out. We have um, the malpractice insurance company comes and speaks just because that's something students need to be thinking about and as part of the end game. We have adjusting workshops, we have soft tissue workshops. So it's a kind of a nice week devoted to all things chiropractic. So that's chiropractic week. I really enjoy
Mhm,
that time. We also have food trucks come. We have food trucks. We have lots of food available, lunches and those kind of things during that week. And it's a similar activity in the winter quarter. It's just shorter. It's a more condensed version called the winter warm up.
mhm.
So those are
Great.
two of my favorites.
Awesome. Now we can move on to just message to new students. We wanted to just take a moment and address new students preparing to start at UWS. So we listed just a few of the tips we hear from new students, students I've worked with that I've helped enroll or alumni I've connected with as they prepare for a rigorous program like chiropractic. So one of the most common pieces of advice I hear from current students is just to find a good work-life balance and managing your time well. This is a rigorous program, like you mentioned, so finding time to rest and relax is crucial. And Portland is a great city for this. I've lived here for about 15 years and absolutely love it. There's outdoor activities like hiking. You can go to the beach for a day, go skiing in Mount Hood. So just tons of outdoor opportunities to really get outside of your, grinding for classes and studying. But even like on a smaller scale, local coffee shops, restaurants, and just filled with hidden gems that you can really find something for everyone. Dr. Kaiser, did you have a favorite restaurant or anything that you wanted to recommend to our new students or students visiting?
The coffee houses are amazing. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
on Fridays, I make a point to try to visit a different coffee house on my way into work. And you can never get a bad cup of coffee. And the folks are
Mm-hmm.
just so friendly. You walk into any place, and there's typically a dog there, so the dog will greet you. And then the barista and just the folks in there are always so friendly. I get a kick out of all of our pictures because they're all sunny, and there is a thing in the Pacific Northwest known as rain. So there is going to be some rainy days as well. But even those rainy days make for a beautiful um, amount of snow, if you will, in Mount Hood, right? That upper right hand picture. We need rain and snow in order for students to go out skiing and snowboarding and snowshoeing and all of those things. So we appreciate our rain as much as we appreciate
Mm-hmm.
our sun. But yeah, there's so many great things to do Portland. So I
Hmm.
love all those
Yeah.
pictures. We're only
I love
90
having
minutes from the beach.
the four seasons for sure. Like you said,
Absolutely.
we need our rain, but yeah, definitely get a good mix where you can have lots of different activities.
That's right.
So yeah. And if anyone wants more recommendations, neighborhood questions, anything like that, just contact admissions. We can get you in touch with your admissions counselor, or I'm happy to chat with you as well too about that. And then something I also hear often as an admissions counselor is just concern for managing the rigorous program or workload. So, Dr. Kaiser, what tips would you give to a new student who will be starting the program, whether that's time management or, setting good expectations? What would you share with those students?
Yeah, I think the main thing you can do if you find yourself um, feeling like you're struggling a little bit. Everyone's going to. And so it's not unusual to struggle because it is a rigorous program. I just encourage folks to reach out to their faculty. Even if you're not struggling, reach out to your faculty, get to know them because they're the ones who have the tips for success. They know how you're going to be successful in your class. So please don't hesitate to be proactive and reach out to them. Reach out to student success. They're there for you. So don't think you're doing this alone. There's also students do very well when they get involved with student or with groups, study groups. That really is an area where it helps students a lot to study with other folks. And we have lots of areas on campus where there's quiet areas, there's more large group areas where you can study around a table with a multitude of people. So I really encourage people just to be proactive, get to know your faculty, get to know student services, but also get to know those that are in your class. Everyone's going through the same thing.
Mhm. Yeah, that's well said. And then, what would you tell someone on the flip side, someone who's considering this field or program, maybe not yet accepted or hasn't fully, decided or committed yet? So if a student's unsure about chiropractic, what would you recommend they explore before applying?
Yeah, please do your homework. We're very confident. I'm very confident that we have a good program for you. But do your homework, look around, go visit other folks, other programs, go and pick up the phone and talk to other programs. I encourage you to do that because this is a big decision that you're making. I'm confident it's the right one, but you need to make that decision yourself.
Mhm.
Also, if you're questioning, is this right for me, I'm willing to have another conversation with you, but I also have faculty and students that will be happy to
Mhm.
to chat with you. They're um, they're the ones who probably can give you the best information. So don't hesitate to reach out to Liddy and say, hey, can you connect me with a
Mhm.
faculty member or a student that's going through the program or a student that maybe just started the program? Everyone's happy to
Mhm.
help you. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And another question was, what are some qualities of students you tend to
mhm,
that tend to thrive in this program, so to
mhm.
speak?
I think students who are humble and they really recognize that while they have lots of strengths, they also can't do this alone. They need some assistance. So I think it's that self-recognition of this is going to be something that I'm going to have to reach out to others in order to be successful. So I think that grit, we can talk a little bit about that. We can talk about the academic um, oh fortitude and the you have the ability, you've done well in your science courses, those students are going to tend to succeed as well. But I really think if you're one that can just reach out to others and be a little intro or a little extroverted in that way and be proactive, I think it's going to serve you well. So we're
Hmm.
looking for those kind of students who want to make a difference and are good communicators. That's going to serve you well also because you're going to be working in patient care and good listeners. Certainly you're going to do a lot of listening to your patients. You're going to do a lot of listening to each other and to instructors. So good listening skills as well. Yeah.
Yeah, well said. Perfect. Now we can move on to some questions. So you can feel free to drop them in the chat. And then, Dr. Hazer, I'm sharing my screen. So if you want to read the chat and answer any questions, since I won't be able to see those, feel free. We can just have any questions for Dr. Kaiser.
Sure. Yeah, I don't see any right now. Who's got a question for me? And I've given you a lot of information, so maybe
Mm-hmm.
there aren't a lot of questions at this point, and that's perfectly fine too.
Mm-hmm.
But if I didn't answer something, please don't hesitate to put it in the chat or speak up.
Mm-hmm. While we wait for questions, one thing I was curious about is if you had any like success stories or a recent graduate or a student that really stands out of just exemplifying what our program is all about. Would be cool to hear.
Yeah, I try to get out and see our alumni and try to get out and see our community-based clinical sites. So we have a number of them in British Columbia and we have a number of them in Alberta. And I've been going up there. I'm going to be going to Seattle here shortly as well. And it's just so exciting to go into a chiropractic office and
Mm-hmm.
and see our students who are not yet grads, but they're just thriving. They're in appreciating the fact that they are seeing some complex cases that they may not have had the opportunity to see in our clinic. We have a very good
Mm-hmm.
clinic here on campus, but not always are there some, they don't always see some the complex cases that they might see out in the working in the community-based clinical education site. So just that excitement that a student has, I and I went to one site up in British Columbia where a chiropractor was working with one of our students, and the chiropractor pulled me aside, and the student had only been there 2 months, and said, you know, I'm going to be hiring so and so in the next
Mm-hmm.
3 quarters because I'm so impressed by this young man. And this chiropractor was a graduate from another school, and they said I would never um, not consider a University of Western States students
Mm-hmm.
because they come with such confidence and they come with such competence. They know how to adjust, they know how to manage a patient. So after 2 months of this student being with this chiropractor, they were already going to have a job and they still had 6 months to go in the program. So that was exciting. That to me, that was a great success.
Yeah, that's awesome. Another question I thought of was what's something that prospective students often don't ask you about that you think they should be more curious about?
Yeah, that's a great question. What did they not ask me about, but they should be more curious? Um,
Or maybe you're surprised it doesn't come up as often that you think would be good to know or something.
Yeah, I think you've almost stumped me, Liddy. Um, I don't know that students, um, I think sometimes students are surprised because as I walk the hallways, they'll every now and again I'll ask a student how are things going, and they
Mhm.
almost are just incredibly surprised at how generous and kind everyone is here. And they're mostly talking about their faculty because I like the idea that I'm kind and those kind of things too. I
Mhm.
hope they're talking about me too, but they almost are surprised that the faculty are so willing to help them and they're such good people. And not only are they smart, but they also will spend time with them. And I think that surprises them. And I guess if you think back, if you were in an undergraduate program where there were 150 or 200 people in a lecture hall, yeah, you didn't get to know your faculty. So it would be surprising when you see your faculty in a running club or you see the faculty doing a bird watching activity some weekend. I guess it is
Mhm.
surprising that they can get to know them well.
Mhm.
So it shouldn't come as a shock to me, but I think though that sometimes surprises me because I've been around
Mhm.
this faculty that they're not only experts in their field, but they're just such kind and generous folks that want it's obvious they want the students to succeed. So that emanates from them all the time. So
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
maybe that's
Yeah,
an answer to that question.
great. And it looks like we might have one in the chat if you want to check that. I think about study abroad that admissions just messaged me about.
And I'm not seeing where am I doing? Oh, if it's a Q and A. I was looking at the chat instead of the Q&A. Okay, so there are three
Oh,
questions.
perfect.
So let's start with the first one and then we'll get to the one that you just spoke
Hmm.
about. Would you say that UWS prepares students well for clinical work starting their career after graduating? Absolutely. I think that we prepare our students well for clinical work. And I not only think that, I'm seeing that when I go out to these sites and I'm hearing from the chiropractors that are telling
Mhm.
me the students are prepared. Now, as far as students, are they feeling like they're prepared when they get out? I had a dinner in Alberta with two recent grads, and um, I also connected with some recent grads in Calgary. So Calgary and Edmonton, I spoke with some of our recent grads, and I asked them right up, how are you doing? How are you feeling? What could we have done better? And they're very complimentary of the program. They think they have been prepared well. Um,
Mhm.
someone asked them, "Are you able to pay your bills?" And the alumni said, "Absolutely." So they're feeling
Mhm.
really prepared. Now, that's a small sampling, but I do hear, I'm
Mhm.
not hearing otherwise from the
Yeah.
folks I'm speaking with, right? So
Mhm.
I think we are
Can I add
preparing.
something to that too? 'Cause just from
Absolutely.
I'm not a chiropractor, I just work in admissions, but I go to the clinic regularly because it's right on campus. It can students, faculty can all go, and I have been so impressed at how
Mhm.
like I've gone to chiropractors outside of our clinic, and I've gone to our clinic, and it feels the exact same. They feel so prepared. They rarely need to check in with like a supervisor or something like that to get me the treatment that I need. So just from a firsthand perspective, I always like to mention that because I've been very impressed with the preparation and just like you were saying, they feels very personal, not
Mhm.
glued to their computer or glued to,
Mhm.
the assessment and questions that they have to ask. So just wanted to throw that in there as a firsthand perspective that I think
No,
everyone would get from our clinic as well if they got to come um, when they're a student too.
that's a great perspective. I appreciated that. Let's see what else we've got. Can you talk more about the option to study abroad for quarters 8, 9, 10? What are the qualifications? So I assume you're meaning the study abroad would be where you get to leave campus, right? And that would be in quarters 10, 11, 12. So that's our last three quarters. In quarters 8 and 9, you're in the clinic here on campus. And there's really no opportunity. There's opportunities in the local area that we could have you involved in, but there's no opportunity for you in quarters 8 and 9 to go a great distance from campus to pursue some activity, to pursue some kind of opportunity. But in quarters 10 and 11, you can go. So if you're a Canadian student and you want to go back to Edmonton, for instance, we can connect you with a chiropractor there. The chiropractor has to make sure they get involved with our program. They have to apply to be a preceptor, and then we can start that process rolling. The competencies that you have to have in order to participate in these programs, you have to have your assessment. There's a number of assessments that you'll be um, expected to participate in quarters 8 and 9 on campus to demonstrate your competence. So whether those are some adjusting skills or there's some um, clinical justification plans, we want to make sure you can think like a doctor. You
Mhm.
might have patient reports. We want to make sure your documentation is appropriate. So all those things you're going to get a score on, and you need to achieve a certain level in order to be able to leave campus. You also have to achieve a certain score on our high stakes examination. So if you remember, I spoke about our assessment center. That's where there's those 16 rooms and there's standardized patients in those rooms. We're also going to run you through a high stakes examination that is going to demonstrate to us that you are able to participate in some of these activities off campus. So we're going to have you very similar to Part 4 boards. And the students really like it because it prepares them well for Part 4 boards, which is a practical examination where the students are knocking on the doors, they're seeing a standardized patient, they're being asked, um, take a history on this patient, determine what's wrong with them, determine what your treatment plan is. So a very practical examination. We do the same thing to ensure that students are ready to leave campus. So that's the kind of assessments that we're looking at and the expectations we have before you would be able to do that abroad kind of program. I hope that answers your question, Jen.
Mhm.
And then, Caitlin, how does UWS prepare students for the business side of chiropractic care, like managing a practice? And Caitlin, you probably asked that earlier, and I just now saw it, but I hope I addressed your question about the preparing students for the business side. I'm confident that our courses that are really preparing students. We have a number of students that do come from Canada, and so we're going to teach the US side of business practice, but we also are going to we're going to bring in the experts from Canada to really address some questions that Canadian students might have so that they're well prepared for the business side of being a chiropractor. So we have courses that I'm very confident are preparing students for the business aspect, but also we're bringing in um, different groups. NCMIC, which is the malpractice insurance company for the United States, they do a pretty extensive starting into practice workshop for our students. So that's another way we're preparing students for the business side of things. So I hope I answered that question, Caitlin.
If anyone
I'm not,
has more
yeah, I'm
questions,
not
they can drop
seeing.
them in the chat. One thing I thought of is I know we offer the free counseling through Well Connect
Mhm.
for students. So beyond that, is there anything you wanted to highlight for how we support like mental health or work-life balance in such a rigorous program, especially during maybe stressful terms or finals week, for example?
Yeah, that's a good question. We do have a meditation room, which is kind of
Hmm.
a unique to our campus, so students can take some time, spend some time in that room where it's very peaceful and there's candles in there, and folks can go in there to get away if they need to get away immediately while they're on campus. We also are going to support you with a elective class in quarter 2 called Mind Body why am I blanking on the last word of it? Well, it's a course for mindfulness, if you will,
Hmm.
and that's offered to quarter 2 students. So you've gone through a difficult quarter 1, you're getting into quarter 2. They're going to help you with some skills to be able to think more mindfully and some things that you
Hmm.
can do to have that um, a nice balance between what you're
Hmm.
doing on campus and your well-being. Our clinic is always there for our students as well. We have our chiropractic students that are available for any kind of treatment, right? Not mental health, but if you're needing your own health issues being addressed. We've got
Hmm.
chiropractic treatment. We also have naturopathic students and doctors on campus that can help you there. So, um, student success, it's a great place for students just to go in and unwind and really focus on that
Hmm.
work-life balance, if you will, as well. Yeah, and Well Connect is a great outside resource that we use on campus.
Hmm.
Mind Body Medicine. I knew I'd get it. That's what the course is called, Mind Body Medicine.
There's any other questions, feel free to add those in before we wrap up. I know we have just a few more minutes, so any last minute questions, but like we also talked about, reach out to admissions, reach out to me. We can get you in touch with Dr. Kaiser and other faculty, or like she recommended, a current student or even an alumni. We have a great community, like she
Mhm.
was mentioning, so we can really get you in touch with anyone to answer your questions. We also have a student ambassador who works with admissions. So he's a current student from Canada, so he's also a really great resource for any questions at all. So feel free. Questions don't have to stop here with this session. We can definitely keep them coming and reach out to us. But yeah, if there's any other questions we can answer for you, please feel free to add those.
I think our housing resource went live today too. Is that right, Liddy? Did you see that?
Oh, I haven't seen that yet, but yeah,
Yeah,
I can
so if
definitely get
students
more info.
yeah, if students are interested in information about housing
Hmm.
resources and a program that we're using, reach out to Liddy and she can give you that
Hmm.
connection because that's sometimes
Yeah, that's a good note.
a concern for
Hmm.
students, a very good concern. You know, where am I going to live once I get here?
Hmm.
We're close
Hmm.
to Washington State. Some folks live in Washington State. Um, and obviously, there's a lot of areas around the Portland area too that we
Hmm.
can we can suggest for you. So
Yeah,
if
I
you're
always tell people it's my favorite thing to talk about. So please reach out to me. I love giving
super
recommendations, neighborhoods, all of those questions. I
wonderful.
always say if I was moving to Canada or a new city, I would have no idea where to start. So
That's right.
I can be where you guys start if you have any questions.
That's wonderful.
Wonderful. Perfect. Well, just thank you all for joining this Q&A. We hope it was helpful as you determine if UWS is the right fit for you, or maybe you're on the fence about chiropractic, not sure if it's the right field. Just wherever you're at, we hope this was helpful. Like we said, if you have any more questions, please reach out to us. We can also have an admissions counselor follow up with you to make sure you got all your questions answered, or connect you with one of the resources we talked about. But thank you all so much and hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Dr. Kaiser, again for joining us and taking the
Absolutely.
time.
Thanks, folks. Take care.